J.K. Rowling, Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden. As a younger millennial or zoomer, if you ask if these people are progressives, of course you will get a no. Ask them if they used to be a progressive, and they will still tell you hell no. Well, first let's look at what a progressive is. A progressive is anyone believing in moderate political change and especially a social improvement by government action. Also, someone who's making use of or interested in new ideas, findings, or opportunities. Somewhere after Occupy Wall Street, this came to mean leftist, and it's not even close. It can be, but it's nowhere near exclusive. Joe Biden is currently barely a progressive anymore. He's not using new findings, especially with the war on drugs. J.K. Rowling may not be a progressive now because she's wholeheartedly embracing old ideas on trans issues, but that doesn't mean they didn't used to be. It's all about using politics to make new ideas and data improve the region, nation, or the world. Leftism isn't even slightly new, it's very old. It just feels new because people are dusting off the once banned creature and giving it a new polish and using newer data, pointing out where and how it didn't work in hindsight. And just as Darwin was wrong at the time of some things, so were Marx, Proudhon, Bakunin, and Lenin, but the overall ideas are getting resurrected, tossing out parts that didn't work in specific circumstances as they all disagreed on certain parts, and we're now picking out the parts that did succeed. Robert Reich and Elizabeth Warren pushing for the idea of democracy in the workplace thanks to data is progressivism, and people can be progressive about one thing and not on the data on other things, making them more conservative. Progressives are literally defined by their point in time. One can be progressive in one time, and if they stick to their guns on an issue, can be conservative 5 years later. Under Teddy Roosevelt, being anti-gay and pro-eugenics made you progressive. Biden and Clinton were progressives with their crime bill because the data at the time touted by academics said this should work. Mind you, just like with Teddy's progressivism, academia was filled with mostly white, middle-class men with a serious modernist perspective on everything, using data horribly skewed by decades of racist profiling as the movement's past postmodernism, which helped create cracks in modernist theories, had not yet solidified in academia. They were progressive, but just like with any science, you have to keep on top of the latest research and ideas, and the older a politician seems to get, the less on top of the new data they seem to be. Biden still thinks the war on drugs is good, and weed may be a gateway drug, even though all those ideas are outdated, and even many Republicans knows that it's just malarkey. Warren did the opposite and went from conservative to a German-style social democrat based on new data and will not commit to anything until she's consulted the data and truly understands it first before making a stand on it. That's what I will always find so impressive about her. She's not a populist, she's a progressive and embraces new data when people have shown it to her. And that usually leads her to the right conclusion in time. She has a methodology to change her own mind. Whether you're a progressive or not is based entirely on your ability to understand and keep up with the science and data available over time. Leftism in some ways is getting revisited after we discovered what information was purposely suppressed. Sadly, progressivism requires you to change your mind based on new data. The only way to be a progressive is to base your beliefs on science. It's why it's so counterintuitive to so many, as science is also counterintuitive and complicated. They need simple or a dogma to stick to because weighing all sides is really hard and there is limited time in the world. Being progressive can move you across all ideologies as we get new science and data in, and it will always be changing. The second you stop, you become dogmatic or conservative. An idealist, not a progressive. Each ideology can hold progressive elements. In the social realm, libertarianism has some very progressive ideas. But then you get onto the economic side and it's hyper-conservative and not based on data at all and ignores over half of human history and psychology. But the only way to stay consistently progressive is to follow the Red Queen hypothesis, always keep running just to stay in one place. Science is constantly moving, so progressivism is always moving. If you stop moving and learning, you too will cease to be a progressive. So as always, thank you all for watching this as a video or listening to this as a podcast, which I'm sure was completely uncontroversial to anyone, especially to the YouTube monetization team. So if you found this useful, please donate to my Patreon. Just a reminder that I'm Anubis2814 on YouTube, and I have almost 700 videos on my channel that I've made over the past 11 years on religion, science, psychology, and politics. Please go check them out, and if your site has the option, like, rate, review, and comment. A special thanks goes out to Kendall Copperberg, Mylon Mia, Ogrel, Elias Garcia Guevara, and Joe Taylor for their $10 or more Wapawet level donations. I'm always humbled by the fact that they find my work worth funding and worth driving me forward. Thank you all. Please consider donating to my work if you can, and thank you all for listening.